Hello. Uh, Go ahead and ignore the video that auto played. Welcome everyone to Hexgrid Hangouts. We I need to mute Twitch. Okay, so now that I don't have to hear myself repeat, forgive the pared down display here. I'm in a new place, new state, new recording streaming setup. So I'm going to get right into the video in just a moment, but I would like to just thank you all for showing up. This is a pre-recorded video chat that myself and Carrie had with John Curtin of Starfinder Facts, where we dig in on the Drift Crisis book. There's a lot of great art to be shown. We're going to get into it just fine, but I do want to direct you all when we're done here. Depending on if we have any questions in chat, please throw them up. I have the PDF open. I'd be happy to have a conversation. And we we might do a little bit Q&A if there's much there. Yes, Carrie is at PaizoCon. I was we played Fly Free or Die just last night, and she had just arrived, but activities start today. I'll be checking in with her, seeing how much fun she's having. So without further ado, I'm going to shut this part off, and we're going to watch a little video from Past Dawn. Hello and welcome to Hexgrid Hangouts, Drift Crisis Edition. I'm Don, GM of Hexgrid Heroes and Horizons Unknown. We have a special one for you, but before we get into all the book, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts. As always with Hexgrid Hangouts, I have Carrie.
Hi, everyone.
A special one for you. Joining us because he has all the book, special access to this book, special part of this book. John Curtin of Starfinder Facts fame.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be on here.
I've been wanting to get you on here for a bit. We will have like a one-on-one where we can dig into all the stuff you're allowed to tell me at another point. But we got access to Drift Crisis like a full month early. So we spent some time on here for a read bit. The book. We will have like a one-on-one. I took some notes, and we're going to talk about it. So this is coming out the day the book comes out, so we can talk about anything and everything, but we won't be spoiling anything. We'll tease a couple things, but part of this book is broken into chapters of like the players can read and what's more for GM. So we don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but we do want to tease this amazing book. Before we get into the meat of the book, just go around. What did you all think? John.
Great. I have been really excited about this book since I got the outline pitch. I'm one of the authors on here, and there's so many cool ideas just strewn through this book that like every section has something unique and cool. I've been like vibrating, waiting to talk about it. So I'm really, really happy that it's landing in people's hands, and now we can.
Yeah. Carrie, how about you?
The whole thing was exciting. It can totally change the entire Starfinder world. And there's so many hooks. There's so many options for players. That's what I was primarily focused on in reading the book because I don't do a lot of GMing. So, the player options, there are some options for different classes that are just amazing. It was kind of blew my mind.
Mm-hmm. Cool. For me, same. Super excited. I always love these books pushing the bounds, and for me, this book has been like I'm a casual comic book reader, but like this is like a giant comic book event where I guess we can just get into what exactly the Drift Crisis is, and I have I have the book in front of us. I think we all have the book in front of us right now. So, those of us that have been playing Starfinder know that the drift plane is the primary means of interstellar travel. And it's been that way ever since a machine god named Triune sent out a signal, and it's kind of it revolutionized society and created the Starfinder setting that we know and love. But one day, after 300 some odd years, stopped working as promised. So there's causes. There's in the book there are a list of causes that you can use in your games about what angle you want to take this. There is a quote unquote canon one that the Starfinder setting will use in their adventure paths that are be coming out later in the year about this and around this. But it's entirely up to GMs and tables to decide what kind of adventures you play. So let me just ask you guys, what's your favorite like cause? Like when you're reading this, what was like the big one? Like I know Carrie, you said you don't GM much, but like in a game, what one excites you the most?
Ask John first.
No. You definitely ask Carrie.
You know what? I am going to go to John first because he's had the book longer.
Right.
In his head and heart.
Well, only parts because I didn't get to see everyone else's.
Okay.
I don't know. There's so many. I personally would lean towards like the Triunite angle because I think it's really interesting that there could be, some high up religious figure who goes, I think this will be a good idea, and then it's not.
Yeah,
makes for a lot of really interesting intrigue that you could see through a campaign. So that's my pick.
For me, I think I definitely lean closer to the Triune being like Triune giveth, Triune taketh away, and the different ways that the book kind of tackles. What was it? Divine intervention? Was there a slip up? Did someone move digits around in the code that is the fabric of the universe? The virus one, there is one about a virus. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna skim that quickly. I'm like, we're kind of in a virus mode right now, and I'm like, I don't like the virus one. I'm just gonna
that was one of the things I noticed. The book has a lot of real world parallels. If you're like, okay, when everything breaks,
yep,
you can see the different factions that have, we've all noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, this is the virus land, and but the one I liked the most was the sacred code, and sacred code has been splintered and is sent all over the universe, and now we have to retrieve the sacred code.
Yes, yeah, that's a good that's like an optimistic, like we're going to save things, not like I'm leaning towards like, oh, things are wrecked. And if you thought if you had supply line issues, imagine the packed worlds and beyond.
And meanwhile, as like the human version of a glitch goblin, I'm just like, glitch gremlin. I'm just like, yes, chaos. Everything is different now.
Yep. I've already started a homebrew little hook adventure. I think I've shared it with John. Basically, the Knights of Galarian are waiting for chaos to ensue, so they're fighting back the scourge of the undeath. The pirates that are like it's like I had the book maybe 5 days and I'm just already writing an adventure, so very keen on it. So the drift just stops working stops working at all in some places. There are huge storms. Carrie, you want to talk a little bit about what happens, what drift crisis is?
Drift crisis is the drift stops working, which meant that some ships were expelled from the drift into random planes. Some ships, just completely disappeared. They never to be heard from again, and things just broke. And everyone's now just figuring out, there's the immediate concern of, okay, fire plane, fire elemental plane, or I was shot out into, heaven. The two worlds collided and now I'm stuck in the middle of these two things. So there's a lot going on as just the instant it happens. And then there's when it goes back to sort of working, but not really, but you can kind of still travel some, except some beacons totally turned off. So there's, pitches everywhere of what you can, graft a story onto.
Yep. Loved all the different things. Like, it really digs into what life is like. And just looking at my notes here. So things just go to crap. Everything Carrie said, that's dead on. I think best case scenario, my ship gets flung into heaven. I think I'd deal. But the people, like, you're just completely cut off. The Pact Worlds Alliance is trapped, locked in the case of the Veskarium, and we're going to talk about some of the locations and what sort of changes they experienced in a bit. But like the Veskarium, there are sections of the Veskarium that are completely cut off now. Just what's going on? How's the Veskarium going to enforce their iron grip on their little empire?
It's really hard to have an empire when you can't control everything and you can't send ships to dominate anymore.
Yep.
There's a reason Rome was famous for its roads.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So as Carrie said, the drift beacons disappeared. Some blew up. I have a couple friends playing adventures where like drift beacons are kind of important in their stories, and like when I was reading the book, I'm just constantly like, okay, put that in the Occam folder in my brain, like and then there's so it happens. Systems that have been in place for 300 plus years fall apart. Like I said, supply lines, certain factions go into overdrive. Some opportunists get funny ideas in their head that this is their time to shine. And I think I will move on to locales and factions. So did either of you have like the book lists the big players in the Starfinder setting? What were your favorite factions, and what sort of trauma and reaction to the drift crisis was there?
So I had to pick like a couple favorite places because I was like, it's bad form to be like, the ones that I wrote obviously are my favorite.
Yep.
But for me, there was a big part of writing this, in the middle of a pandemic. And like on Pabak, the Osharu as like a center of knowledge and wisdom, gathering together to be like, oh, giant crisis, time to get to work solving this, was like a big part of me being like, this is the best of what happens around here. This is what we want to see. So since I can't say Pabak because that's mine, going to Eox, honestly, was very, very cool having the corpse fleet suddenly go, hey, this would be a nice time to go home, being like a big threat as an opportunity for player and GM storytelling. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. More pirates, more rebels and revolutionaries. Just turn the chaos dial up to like 8 or 9.
Yep. I do believe our favorite tech guru, Jeff, is running the tech for the stream today. Thank you as always, Jeff. So we're going to be cycling through pictures straight from the book, and there is at least one shot of an Elybrian kind of back and back with a hero in a shootout. So like I also thought Eox was going to be a fun one because how many different factions are at odds with Eox and the Corpse Fleet specifically. Like that's just, and those of you also later in the book, they do talk about the APs. Every AP except for Horizons of the Vast, conveniently enough, has hooks. How you want to run it, play it, mid Drift Crisis. And
Fly Free or Die is going to get a lot harder when we can't count the number of days.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of fun stuff happening. So
Now it's Fly Free and Die.
It's no longer an option. So yeah, I could think of a lot of fun hooks to play with. One of the big bads, one of the touchy spots of the Packed Worlds running rampant. How about you, Carrie?
I really liked. I had a couple as well because it was hard to pick because everything, like, they go through every aspect of the Pack Worlds, near space, far space. They go through all of that and all the major planets and players, and everyone has their own reactions, and some are positive and some are negative, and Abadar Corps trying to say, okay, everything's fine, as they're trying to, they supply the world with their goods, and they have empty stores. And I think we've all been there where, you can't quite, you can't count on supplies anymore. That used to just be a fact of life. And so, that was an interesting one, as they're struggling to find their own way through it all. And, you don't think about, okay, what's the store thinking about? And they're, particularly with Abadar Corps, it's all supposed to be for their god. And then the other ones that I really liked was the free captains as the licensed piracy, and that these new up and comers just don't follow the pirate code.
I could see a lot of. I've never played the PF1E AP Skull and Shackles, but I immediately went to, like, this is when a Starfinder Skull and Shackles is going. Like, it's always going to be good, but like this is just begging you to get a holographic Jolly Roger on your starship. So yeah, 100% love the space pirates. Okay, so and to keep this timely, like, we're not going to go through page by page. We want to talk about, like, show the art, talk about some of the stuff they have on there, but really want to encourage you to all go out and buy it. Hopefully the Don that announced this stream has already told you, but we are running a giveaway on Twitch, and I'm sure the link will also go to our Discord for a random winner to win a copy of Drift Crisis. So definitely want you all to get a taste for this, get a feel for the store, and hear your thoughts of, like, what you want, what kind of games do you already have written in your head where everything gets turned upside down, and now you still have to do Starfinder jobs. And my favorite aspect of it, my introduction to the system, was playing Society play. So seeing what Starfinder Society has to deal with, what is on the horizon for the APs and Starfinder Society season 5.
Season 5.
Yeah, so like I've heard that there's promise of, like, stuff. This will reflect the entire Starfinder line, and I'm just so excited to see that kind of cohesion, that kind of comic book event where it just disrupts everything. So super excited for all of it. Next up, Terry, you mentioned themes and class options. Do you want to talk about, were there any of them that jumped out to you? I think we have a picture of those. Yes, right there. The Forlorn Kasatha is one of the themes.
Yeah, they had a bunch of new themes coming out because, you now can pick things like, okay, you were stuck in the Drift Crisis and you're a refugee now. And so you have a theme for the refugees, and you have themes for trying to scroll through and figure out what, the opportunist,
yes,
who is looking for, just what they can get out of this. The whole world's gone to hell, and all right, what can I make out of this?
Yep. I did like that the opportunist is a +1 charisma. So, like, this is that envoy. I mean, it can be anyone, but like I immediately go to, like, an envoy ship captain. I think of Fly for Your Die also, where, like, we're already like, for those of you that play Fly for Your Die, you're very much not heroes. You're space truckers, and when the whole world goes to hell, the whole universe, for what you can tell, this would be your time to shine rather. So yeah.
And then the class options.
Mm-hmm.
They had so many cool new things that for the classes that they've included. The Mystic, where you can now, unfold space is an option for the Mistis.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of stuff. The Solarian had some cool things. The Vanguard can now send shields by bending space.
Yep. Those of that watch the Horizons Unknown stream, I cannot wait. So some of these, I should also say, like, a lot of this is drift heavy. This is mostly all drift heavy, but there are some options if your table isn't either ready or, for whatever reason, not going to be running the Drift Crisis stuff. There are tons of options in here that can be played in a standard adventure. And specifically the Vanguard offering shields, I thought of our favorite Dragonkin in Horizons Unknown, Hull, hurling shields in front of people. So lots of cool options.
I'm personally, I recently started playing a precog, which may be the only class I play for the rest of my life, because oh my gosh, so much fun.
Yeah.
And there's a whole Drift Crisis anchor, like specifically tied to you've aligned yourself with the weird things that have happened in this Drift Crisis. And so while, maybe if your game isn't doing the Drift Crisis, you can't take that particular anchor, but there's a couple of temporal anomalies that are not specifically Drift Crisis, but like, I would love to have a little time pocket right there.
Yep. Yeah, I'm thinking of adventures where, like, either in the Drift Crisis or not, like playing a precog or maybe a Witch Warper who has stuff to do with realities, you could play a character like, I'm from a Pact Worlds that had the Drift Crisis. It's not here. Cool. Like I'm thinking of all these awesome role play moments that you can work with and within and without having to completely upend your adventures. Which I am curious to hear from fellow GMs what kind of pressure they're feeling to be like, well, this is the new hotness. I want to have the new hotness.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, in Hex Grid Heroes, I'm thinking of like, I have plans. How quick can I get through my plans to do this plan? And so there's just so much. And yeah, the precog has great stuff. The Mystic, I really appreciated the there's new spells in here, which big fan of. The Witch Warper as well.
Technomancer, you can now attune to drift engines and boost them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. Anyone who does, like Back to Fly for Your Die, if you're playing that and you can suddenly make your ship faster,
Yep.
that, could be huge.
Lots of things. I keep just scrolling. So I'm going to move past this section and go over to gear. Lots of fun stuff has been made. Those of you that are hip like me and read too much lore around here will remember that the planet of Akaton, which is my second favorite place to deal with stuff. Before Drift, they were a bustling society in their own right, with their Thasteron being mined on Akaton, and then that's what was used for pre-Drift interstellar travel. Triune comes around, gives the signal out, and suddenly Akaton has become the Rust Belt. So Akaton has this opportunity to, like, we need Thasteron now. So Thasteron is back up in production. There are Thasteron-based weapons. I wish I would have put more images of some of the weapons, but I felt like I was getting a little... There's just so many, and I didn't know how many would be too much, but definitely get the book. The art for these things is amazing. There's fast-fault blasters. We finally have a Starfinder blunderbuss that'll do 2d4 damage with a knockdown critical effect. That's
And like a shout out to whoever the writing genius was, who was like, okay, so if we can't use this propulsive fuel in a spaceship, might as well pack it into a blunderbuss, and like taking the lore and kind of turning it just to the right, so everything is, it's very cool.
Yeah. What about you? What were some of your favorite gear items?
So I really like the increased focus on planar travel and planar threats, because if you're like, oh, I can't go to the drift anymore, might as well cut through the plane of fire. Hope there's no side effects to that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you see in the gear section is now there's a little more planar toys. So I'm personally really excited by the Ring of Genie calling, because that starts to bring a little more of that classic role-playing game hook, where a GM can go, all right, what happens when I give them a genie? And then going from there. It brings an element of storytelling that has been possible in Starfinder, but now is explicit.
Cool. Carrie?
My favorite one was the moo emitter. It is a gun that emits mood goo, which provides a pleasant, calming euphoria to everyone. So it can be used to, quell riots, but it also could just be used to, you end up with a fascinating condition for it. And so it just that one I just thought was hilarious.
I personally love that it's invented by like goblins who found a little hole to the drift, and they took this goo and that's what it did, so they made a gun for it.
Because it can be pressurized.
When I saw the image, I'm like, I should get this. And I'm like, no, I need to show full art pieces. But this mood goo emitter is amazing. Completely agree. You were talking about planar stuff. I'm looking at some of the armor and abyssal plate. I have players that I have Azamar and Tiefling players, and I'm like, I can loop this in like just normal. So abyssal plate, normally crafted by demonic smiths. Abyssal plate tends to be rare, but sets of armor reverse engineered. Like, it's just so cool. Like, they are going more into planar adventures. And I'm in what book was Starship Operations Manual, when we got all those new interstellar forms of travel. The hell drives. I think people are going to go bananas over using in Drift Crisis. The elemental planes. The first world planes, like just like you said, like made it explicit. Like, these are like encouraging you in the face of this crisis. Like, we're going to have to switch to planar travel as we did before Drift. I know that on a couple planets, Castrovel has those the Ayudari, the Stargates is how I've never been able to not think of them in that way. But just other modes of transportation in this new setting, like I see like a Stargate SG-1 style adventure going on.
Speaking of, I think that is one of the APs that they have linked to this. Is the Lost in Space kind of. There's 2 APs that will be attached to this, as well as a plethora of Starfinder Society scenarios. And the first AP is you get shunted out into a planar field, and then you're dealing with how do you get back to reality.
I do think that's one of the coolest things, is that travel is dangerous again. When so much of like my personal Starfinder experience has been, you hop in your shift, you go to the drift, maybe there's like one encounter that you have there, and then you're back out. But now, because travel has been completely upended, I guess we have to go cut through the first world is like a whole adventure in and of itself.
But we can pick up some armor while we're there.
Yep. Yep. I am guilty of like, we're going to Star Wars screen wipe this drift thing because like the drift has always fascinated me. It's always been described just beautiful. We have an image up now of a space fight, probably in space, probably in the drift. But like,
Probably in the drift.
I love its appeal. But this is kind of like a kick in the pants for me to like, no, slow down. The journey is now even more important than the destination in your storytelling. So I love that this has injected that sense of urgency into what was before. I mean, I've been in a lot of games and a lot of us have just been like, and you're there. Nothing happened. Wow, you're so lucky. Now luck's not got nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's, if you make it there with nothing happening, it's rare.
Mm-hmm.
You have that was one of my, moving on to their different adventure hooks.
Yeah.
One of my favorites was the drift used to deposit little bits of space, and now all of the little bits of space are coming back into the drift. So you have planar options as you travel through the drift, and creatures from different worlds and different planes are now to be found in the drift. And so it's a lot more dangerous. It's a lot more, you have to be careful and you have to plan these things out, and you can't guarantee that it's just going to work. But that does also mean that, there are new and exciting, planar fusions, and you can get new serums that, because as you travel through the drift and as it's intermingling, so you can have more, player options that let you become partially, there's a serum of phase fickle fancy.
Yeah.
So, there's all kinds of options, and that's just one section and one adventure hook. And there's, I don't even know how many adventure hooks.
20 adventure seeds. And I will say in the book, they tell you like what factions are involved. So if you want to cater your adventures to focus on one for another, it also breaks it down when you look at them, what locations are featured. So this book really helps us all get our adventures off the ground, and levels.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I thought was a nice addition too.
Very much so. Yeah. John, what was your favorite adventure?
Loved the Patra Independence, like hands down. I have a very big love-hate relationship with the Vescarium, in that I love to hate the authoritarian aspects, but also some of my favorite characters are Vesk. So I go back and forth. And to have like the tyrannical like despots being overthrown by the militant cat folk in this opportunity of, hey, if their army can't get the resources, but we're on our home planet, sucks to be Vesk.
Yep.
Also, because I'm a trained musician by many years ago, all of the Patra weaponry is also musical, which is really cool. I did like put in a very strong pitch going, I would love to write for this section, and it went to someone else who did a better job than I probably could have. So I'm just soaking in how like the fact that your Trinary singing coil levels up from solo to a duet to a quartet to an orchestra at level 18.
Wow.
I was just like, that's such a cool naming thing. And going and getting advanced melee and long arms with profession musician just strikes like an evil grin in my heart.
Yeah. I'll give a tiny tease for those watching that might be Hex Grid Heroes podcast listeners. Brasha in our show is headed for Vesk 6, or Pulonis, as I've been corrected many times. And like just reading that, like even like the Drift Crisis is like so compelling for that. I have to look through that. I'm like, I could give him all this. I just have to break the drift.
It's a very nice plane you got. It would be a shame if something would have happened to it.
Yep. For me, my favorite the adventure seeds was the broken beacons, because I like so basically the adventure is going out investigating drift beacons, those ones that still exist. There's you got to there's hacking stuff you can do in there. You can I guess this is kind of a shorter one. I was looking at another one, but you can go through, investigate these drift beacons, try and get them back up and running. And I can think of a whole slew of things that you can throw at each one of these, because drift beacons, they've been fairly cagey about what they look like up until now. And here they talk about how they can look like about anything. Those that were given to quote unquote us by Triune. Some people make them, and I just love. I love that kind of Apollo 13 Armageddon style adventure where things aren't great. We're going to send a crack team of experts to,
or misfits, as the case can be.
Misfits, which is going to be the case if it's any game that I run. And I just love they're trying to do it, and I wish I had more time in the week to play games. But yeah, that's and there's 20 of them. We didn't go over half of them because there's so many. There's plenty of GM resources that they give you a list of creatures to throw at them throughout that adventure. There's gear, there's loot, there's little touches of lore throughout. More, we were talking about spells. There are more spells for all the classes. So the pocket vacuum was one I really liked a lot. Yeah.
Can you tell us, John, which sections you wrote?
Yes. So I was on the Near Space Gazetteer. So everything that happened in Near Space was unfortunately my idea. Some of them came out okay. The planets, not I believe I did a good job writing. Some of the planets had good things happen to them in their pushing through.
Yeah.
A lot of them did not.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tough time.
Yeah.
And then in the back of the book, the treasures and artifacts section was mine.
Yeah, let's talk about the treasures and John. These are your sections.
Scroll. So the treasure section is going to look very familiar to people who looked at the Galaxy Exploration Manual, where the basic idea is, instead of just handing people a pile of credits, here is something different or unique. Mm-hmm. And I was given the permission to add some artifacts into the game as well here, which was very, very exciting for me as someone who loves the lore and expanding it. So I will say I don't really know what any of these things are either. It's one of the joys of writing pieces of lore is you kind of want to leave the serial numbers filed off so that players and GMs can make this into something that's really important for their game. Mm-hmm. So I think my favorite, I love them all. They're all very, I tried to make them all very different, and I hope that comes across. Mm-hmm. But we have a Wadenite travel log called Glimpses of the Endless Horizon to give people a little bit of divine help navigating this terrible crisis of multiverses. The Lang Luminary is a artifact that lets players travel through the realm of dream, which I don't know if it's been featured in Starfinder before, but I have a deep-seated love of the mythoses of Lovecraft, even though the stories are a little dry sometimes. But making weird trips to the realm of dream was yes, I want this. I made a really mean thing in the operator's shard. This is an evil artifact. It does not say anywhere that it is evil, but how it works and how it operates gives people a hands-on connection to the drift plane and Trionite knowledge in a really brutal way. So I hope people hate this as much as I enjoyed writing it.
And for any complaints, not complaints, for any outrage at how your party handles these artifacts, please hit them up at Starfinder Facts.
I will be thrilled to hear what fresh hell I've unleashed on your poor game.
Yeah.
You broke my brain.
And about your point about the dreams, I think they've been mentioned once. The dimension of dreams may have been mentioned once or twice throughout society, but the term Lang like strikes a memory. Like there's some Pathfinder 1E stuff. I don't have near the knowledge about Pathfinder anymore that I do Starfinder, but I feel like I read this and then I'm going to go into a rabbit hole of like, okay, the Lang, and I do this with everything with Starfinder is I use Pathfinder to help me conceptualize maybe a bit or focus it or expand or what not to expand. But yeah, great artifacts. I didn't going back to the treasures, like there's just so many. Like I have a couple websites that are loot generators, and those are good. But like after a while, my players get tired of hearing me refresh and saying, "Okay, you get 4 corpse lanterns." So like this is perfect. Broken up into 1,000 credit, 5,000, 25, and 100,000 credit increments, and then you just roll a die to do it. And I love that because that random number generation saved the day.
Yeah.
So when you do these, I'm curious if do you have any like wisdom on like where you go to make such a variety of treasures?
A big part of that is for me personally, I'll write like 1 or 2 in at a time and then come back to it later. So I'm approaching with like fresh eyes and a fresh mindset.
Okay.
And in trying to focus on something that players can take and get like another story out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like one of them is a luxury urban cruiser with mountain eel leather seats, built-in virtual assistant, top of the line sound system. So there's like spots of blood in the trunk. Looks like signs of a struggle. Enjoy your new car. So having a GM go, how do I hand that to my players? What happens next? It was a big focus on how do I make something cool.
Cool. Awesome. Love it. I love it. I can't wait to offer these. And the twist, the urban cruiser was a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I love that. Faustian. You have some treasure. Also, the local constabulary is here to ask you questions about the blood in the trunk.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it you got a really great deal on this, but
Yes. Yep.
the cops are now after you. Good luck.
Yep. Fantastic. Okay, quick rundown on the adventures. Check. Another part of the book, there's a bit of an alien archive or a bestiary, but it's also got a list of well-to-do and nefarious NPCs to use. There's my favorite being the very first android who went to did the drift jump, and her name is, I just had it and I scrolled away, Alexana Guriari. She was an android who took one of the first drift jumps, never to be seen from again until Drift Crisis happens. And like, why is she here? Is this a sign? Is this really her? Because some people have tried to pass off as her. It's been 300 years. So like that, like they have several examples of that where just a person is a spark for adventure hooks, seeds, and other adventures. How about you guys? Was there any of these you saw that just like you must have in a game? You must meet. You must fight.
I mean, Zoe is up right now, and I always love hanging out with Zoe.
Yes. Yeah.
That's really untrustworthy ally situation. I think Zoe and Varric in Legend of Korra, like very similar.
Yeah.
Like they're a fun time to be around, and also you might die, but if you survive, we'll all be rich.
Yeah.
It's my favorite way to hang out with Zoe.
Yep. When scrolling through that section, like anyone who has had more than 10 sessions of Starfinder has heard of Zoe. I feel like unless you're if you're way more homebrew than I am, if you play in and around the setting, Zoe from the core rulebook on has been like, here's this little scamp. They got a scheme. There's a potential for treasure. No celebrity. So love it. How about you, Carrie? Was there any one in particular that kind of grabbed you?
Yeah, on the Aslanti Star Empire, there was Lonerai Regalis, who in theory is doing a good job of reuniting, go Star Empire, but kind of might be leading a rebellion instead because she's just doing it in her own name and not so much the Empire's name. So I thought that was an intriguing, as part of the Empire's pitch, she was one of the, now she has her own thing that she just took advantage of the drift crisis to rebel. So I was rather fond of her.
Yep. Yeah, there's a big section. So just like each of the planets in the Pact World and Veskarium, there's a whole section on the Aslanti Star Empire, a decent-sized section, actually. So if those of you that have played against the Aeon Throne want to expand on that, or if you're just curious to explore that area of the game, of the setting, there's a fair few options there. There's a couple adventure hooks taking place there as well. Just a little bit of everything, and that kind of goes towards what I was saying before about all the APs, and not going to give anything away on this because if you haven't started them, there are things, suggestions if you're going to run an AP with the Drift Crisis rules or the Drift Crisis event in action. They're all there except for Horizon of the Vast, but like it's still coming out. So I already have ideas of ways I could incorporate this into our players on Way Down a 4 pretty easily. But they each have them. The art here is those of you who play Fly for Your Die will recognize the Oliphant or whatever name your table changed the name to. But I'd love this shot. I saw this. I think I saw this on Discord. A couple other people have already gone through and shared some information on this. But I love this shot of just how small you are. Like we're already small in the universe scale, but with the Drift Crisis and Starfinder, 3D 6 days away, 5D6 at most. This event completely upends that. Looking at my notes, hold please. More tools. There's a tool section here. There's so in this part of the book there are spoilers, and I'm not going to give anything away, but there are conclusions to the Drift Crisis. So at the beginning of the book, they talked about potential causes. There's also a section that talks about potential ends, and that's entirely up to your guys' tables and GMs and games to choose what those are. But I love how they got it all. There's more to come in the future books, but this book begins and ends the Drift Crisis how you see fit. And I'm just a really big fan. How about the two of you? Is there anything that we haven't touched on yet that you would like to discuss? I'm skimming through the creatures, and there's just so many more. The spectra. If any of you ran into spectra, they're a key component. They're a key aspect of the drift, and to see them expanded on has been cool, because since Alien Archive 2, I was just looking at the stat block 2 days ago, like having those injected with this like importance has been big for me.
I don't have any, because this entire book is just so exciting. I think the book is going to be really valuable at everyone's tables for as long as they want to like explore this moment in the setting, right? You could even have a game where the drift never gets fixed, and these are permanent changes that are constantly playing out in different places. And because it's something that affects the entire setting, there's a lot in here for any game that you're doing. If you want to talk about the Aslanti, there's multiple sections that touch on that. If you want to just hang out in Absalom Station, there are pages about what happens in Absalom Station during this. And because
you can explore and clear out the ghost levels, which in theory has nothing to do with the drift crisis, but it's all there's all these refugees have come into town, so they need more housing. So you can, it's minutia levels up to big macro problems.
I do want to point out on the screen now, thank you, Passed On, for putting this image up. On the bottom right is the Mugu emitter. And the genie, the ring of genie. Oh, it doesn't. It just says magic items.
No.
So that's that's there. So what you said about Absalom is dead on. Like you can deal with the effects. Like there could just be a population boom that you need to deal with, and you can use this as inspiration for doing that. Like there doesn't necessarily mean you need to wreck the drift plane in order to get a lot of inspiration fuel from this book.
Yeah, and you can have your personal table solve the drift crisis in a night with like a couple, like a one shot. You can have it be an entire campaign. This book fits wherever you decide you want to have it at your table, which is amazing.
Oh, I just scrolled past. There's a new Starship base frame, Starship drones, and I don't think I put the art for that up, but yeah, there's just so much. I just scrolled past a couple Aslanti things. There's a lot of swarm. There's a fair amount of swarm stuff. So like any hook we've previously had with our Starfinder adventures is represented here and able to expand upon. Scroll.
God, I'm just looking at the Corpse Fleet Opportunist section. This is... God.
Sorry. Lost at looking art. So
it's a beautiful book too. I said it when I hopped on the stream today. Like Paizo's art direction is always spectacular, and this book really outdoes itself.
But you get all those cool colors in the drift, all the pinks and the purples and the whatever. So everything is so colorful and so dramatic looking.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Every spectra in this book just makes the entire species cooler. There's a precog thing that I do want to just very briefly mention because the art with it is very cool. And it goes back to my Lovecraft thing, but Release the Hounds, messing with the dimension of time in order to bring Hounds of Tyndalos into combat. It just makes me grin. I will be doing this immediately at 14th level.
Yep. Right on. Yeah, there's just skimmed past. There's more power armor, more like just tons of loot to be had. Like if you get this just to have more gear to throw at them, more magic.
Different kinds of gear too.
Different kinds of gear. I'm looking at Echo gloves, Rugged gloves have thick, sensor-laden pads. When placed against a surface, the gloves emit a sharp seismic pulse, analyzing and rebounding waves and publishing its analysis. Like, you can use that in a spy adventure, in a bounty hunting adventure. Like, there's so much to do here. So instead of listening to dead air about us just fawning over this book, I think that about covers it. Any final thoughts before we wrap up on any of this? Do you already have adventures in mind? Do you already have groups started, promised, like we're going to do Drift Crisis stuff? Because I kind of do.
I am currently trying to lure a group of D&D players into Pathfinder, so to make ships.
Yeah.
It might be into the Drift Crisis. We'll see.
Yeah.
Give them that little bit of hyperspace for like 1 or 2 sessions, then go, never mind, that's not how it works.
You are a kind GM. Carrie, we play in a couple games together.
Yes.
The offline Fly for Your Die game. Are you interested in Drift Crisis affecting the?
Frankly, I was wondering if Drift Crisis had already affected us, because we had a battle with Drift Undead, and we found out that they had been shunted into hell. And I was kind of wondering if that was already part of the Drift Crisis.
Could be. I don't know. I'm just a GM. But it was funny that we started that little adventure side quest in between jobs, and I thought that too. I'm like, oh man, it's right here. I could just do it. So Horizons Unknown. We could, you guys could be setting up your settlement, and suddenly you got refugees. They hear that there's open land. There's supply shortages.
That was the one I was thinking of.
Yep, you are.
All of a sudden, we can't get the fire guns for
Gavin Neldenner.
Right,
Yep.
because we don't. Shipments delayed. Sorry, no guns for you.
Yep. Triaxis has its own section, and you are a member of a team sent by a Triaxian megacorp. They don't have the funds to send you supplies, so those of you that are using battery-based weaponry are gonna soon be out of luck. So yeah, there's just
which is why you use nanosite based.
You win. Gally's going to enact martial law because she's the only one with ammo. Who control the ammo controls the settlement. But that's enough blathering. If you got this far and don't know what the hell we're talking about, Carrie and I are part of a stream that plays Horizons of the Vast every other Thursday here on Twitch. Do check us out. We have a great time exploring this untamed planet and the mysteries involved, and a potential drift crisis on the horizon. Who knows? I don't. I'm just the GM. But that's where you can find me and my stuff. Carrie, tell the folks a little bit about you and what you do outside of all the wonderful games we play together.
I actually am the owner of Critical Hit Cookies, so you can buy gaming themed cookies, or I'm going to be part of a new stream that's playing called True Crit, that's going to be playing Outlaws of Alkenstar.
You're cheating on me. Sorry. First reaction, I'm sorry.
True Crit is kind of an amazing pun name, especially for powder punk, like partially Western. Ah, man, that sounds like a blast. Once
send me info on that. I'll start hyping that up. I saw an announcement this week about that. I didn't know you were a part of that.
I am.
Same.
That's awesome. I'm not jealous of you seeing other streams at all. But yeah, definitely check out Carrie's cookies. Critical Hit cookies are amazing. Have you already begun brainstorming a Drift Crisis cookie?
No, but I kind of think just the colors involved, I think would be kind of fun.
Okay, yeah. Right on. So yeah, check that out. It's currently May when we're watching this. Do you know what May's cookie of the month is?
I should, because when it would be the end of when this airs. So
Not important. It's all good. It's my fault for not asking you before the stream these very important questions. So yeah, check out her cookies. They are delightful. I am currently moving about 1,000 miles closer, so postage just got that much cheaper for me to buy that many more cookies. And that's how I rationalize big life events. John, how about you? Tell us about all the things you're allowed to tell us that you get up to.
All right. So we have just launched a Patreon, Barely Factual Productions, to have an excuse to write more Starfinder stuff and put it out in the world. So you can find that on Twitter, or it's often retweeted under Starfinder Facts, the flagship of Barely Factual Productions. And getting to work on things I can't tell you about.
Wow.
There's... like the joke is all my best work is under NDA.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can say that as much as this book got me excited, I got even more excited for Interstellar Species. And
that's right.
The next two books that I'm on, the hype just keeps going up. It's a great team over at Paizo, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Cool. Yeah. And also I can't when I got started podcasting Starfinder Facts has always been there with the hilarious observations. It's how I met you. It's been a delight to get to know. It's a real great time.
It's heavy dashes of Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett splashed over Starfinder in my head. I don't know how often that comes through, but having fun in the world with a little bit of a raunchier sense of humor. So again, I cannot stress enough that Starfinder Facts is not actual canon. They are very clear that is not allowed to be real canon, but it's a fun time.
Awesome. Yeah. Great having you, John.
Always
looking forward to get you on again, talk about things you can talk about. And we will be back. This is the 25th. Let me just check the calendar here. Today's Monday the 25th for you. Tomorrow, tune in at 6 p.m. Eastern Time to see us continuing the adventures on Waydana 4 with Horizons Unknown. And stay tuned after this video ends. And future Dawn talks to you, and hopefully a different T-shirt. For a Q&A. Any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer. I'm not just going to read the book for you, no matter how hard you ask. But if you do have questions, I'm more than happy to have them. So thank you all.
Don, your voice is so soothing.
Thank you. I'm slowly getting fond of it as
Crisis bedtime stories.
Yes. Yeah, maybe I'll do it in a funny voice. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow, and otherwise see you on the next Horizon. Thank you for hanging out with me, Carrie and John.
Thank you, pleasure. Don.
Okay, and I'm back. Thank you all for tuning in for that. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I had it on mute on my side, but I know what we were talking about. It was so fun to watch John and Carrie just smiling, talking, just gushing about this book and what they do. And I can't thank them enough for doing this weird way we had to do it this time. Drift Crisis was a bit of a book to do this on, and due to scheduling things, wanting to do it this way and having the art, it was definitely a growing moment for me. So we'll be doing more of these if we can in the future. If anyone watching is in the TTRPG community in any capacity, you can come on and talk about your home games, your products you make, the stuff you bake, the stuff you sew, whatever you like to do. Just hit us up on Twitter, social media. Just let us know you'd like to come do a hangout, and we can do something like this. Just talk about what you got working on, what you are working on, and that's it for me. Next week we will be returning back to the adventure of Horizons Unknown. The Explorer Corps is working their way to a rather fun reunion. I'll just leave it at that. But stay tuned. Next week at 6 p.m. EDT, I will be GMing us all through another session of Horizons of the Vast. Thank you all once again. I hope those of you that are at PaiserCon are being safe, having fun, and I look forward to hearing all about your adventures there.